Welcome back to the 5th review of Monstercat Uncaged Volume 1. This is Blast by Tokyo Machine, and considering Tokyo Machine's last release is being hype, and it wasn't so hype, Tokyo Machine's got some making up to do for me, so it's time to see if Blast makes up for it. Alright, so Blast is kind of a return back to Tokyo Machine's style, his normal style. Fight and Hype are a bit different, but this is another bass house song. It's got a breakbeat once again. Tokyo Machine really needs a strong song here after Hype, because I am not the only one that thought that Hype was really weak. Kind of below his standard and below the standard of the label as a whole. So it's time to really see if Blast stands up to Tokyo Machine's former work, which I think his first 4 songs on Monstercat were all very good, or at least pretty good. Okay and Fight, I would argue, are great, like phenomenal songs, and Pixel and Party are pretty good too. A Blast is generally comes from an explosion, and I guess that's what Tokyo Machine's going for here, because if you look at the art, it actually kind of reminds me of Pokemon Trainer's Final Smash from Brawl. So with the 3 Pokemon like blasting like a thing of energy, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure there's a technical word for what I'm trying to say, but that's what it reminds me of, and it means that this Tokyo Machine's most intense artwork yet. It's got a lot of the little animal friends. I don't know what the hell they're called, but it also has Tokyo Machine's character front and center with his cute little hands and all that, and I really like it. That's a good art. But on to the song. There's a lot to get to here. So we start with the intro, which is 8-bit. There's a lot of 8-bit here, even more so than normal. And most of it sounds like it's coming from the Game Boy chip, which I'm a fan of. It's probably my favorite like chip tune. I'd rather that over like NES stuff, I guess. I guess they're supposed to sound like blasts, the drums, quote unquote, like chiptune drums, but it's weird. There's also weird Japanese sounding vocals as normal for Tokyo Machine. And then we get an 8-bit beat, which is pretty cool, but overall this part's kind of meh, and there's going to be a lot of this throughout the song. A riser leads us out of the intro and into the first chunk of the song, and some record scratches that are going to be pretty omnipresent throughout the song introduces a 4 on the floor beat. And we get a weird like little hyper potions like melody. And it starts increasing in pitch before it falls out about as quickly as it came in. And then the next part we get a new melody that sounds, again, like it came out of a Game Boy chip. It's pretty standard Tokyo Machine stuff so far. So far at this point in the song, I'm not really impressed with anything that's going on. And the melody here is complex, but the chiptune somewhat bogs it down. I don't have a problem with chiptune, but when it's used on cool melodies like this, it's a little bit underwhelming. However, the melody that emerges out of the chiptune as a full-fledged EDM melody, and it sounds really cool. That might be my favorite Tokyo Machine melody yet. It's somewhat complex. I like the way the loop ends, kind of going down, and overall I really like it. However, once again, just like the little hyper potions like melody, this dies out as soon as it comes going into the build-up. The build-up starts with a record scratch and a blast sound, and during this build-up we get a new melody, which is a bit harder, but we get sounds reminiscent of OK, which is pretty cool, I guess, but I don't think they're used as well here. Drums get added in the second half of the build-up. Shockingly enough, they get faster, and a blast vocal sample introduced the drop. And the drop is, I can chop it up into 3 distinct parts of the drop, segments if you will. To start off the drop, the melody is used as a bit closer to the intro and the build-up than it is to the one that I really like. The beat is also a break beat, which I don't really care for, so that makes this more similar to Pixel and the last drop of Party rather than OK or the first half of Party, which I like. My favorite part of Party was the breakbeat drop, but on the other hand, on Pixel, my favorite part was the 4 on the floor drop. I think for this song I would have preferred a 4 on the floor, but The breakbeat is what's used throughout the majority of the drops in this. And to begin this drop, there's not a whole ton of variation. It's mostly just the melody with the breakbeat, and overall it gets pretty boring quickly. And then we get the second part of the drop, which is very similar, except we get vocal chops that are just hey, hey, hey. And it almost works as hats in between the kick and the snare, which is a little weird. It's definitely a little bit of an odd choice, but it does add some speed to the drop, much like hats would. And because of that, I don't really have a problem with them. It's original, and it could have been much worse in my opinion. Then we get to the third part of the drop, which is my favorite part because we bring back the awesome melody that I really like. The original melody, there's parts of it that are still there. It's just in the back seat. I mean, the drop has to have at least some sort of heaviness. That's why it's a Tokyo Machine song and not Hyper Potions, I guess. It goes without saying, this is my favorite part of the drop easily. And we get played out of the first drop by an 8-bit part of the melody, and we go into the breakdown.
You just got pranked, bro!
Okay, no, the drop's not over. So, we get the harder melody coming back with a little bit of vengeance. Sounds a lot like the first part of the drop. If there's differences, I can't really tell. Then we go back to the second part of the drop once again with the hey vocal chops. I think it comes in a bit quicker this time. I think it's like half the bars, but I'm not 100% sure. I didn't count it up. I probably should have. But now, for the second part, we also have 808 hats. So awesome. I'm getting really sick of the drop at this point. The prank was pretty cool, but I would have preferred it actually ending here. But a riser and an 8-bit like drop actually plays us out of the drop for good. So that first drop is not my favorite, honestly. I mean, it's not bad by any means, but at the same time, I would have preferred something with more change. And change coming faster. That kind of reminds me of Some Wobbles more. Or that's the song I think of when I think of songs that have, you know, distinct parts throughout the song, throughout the drop, but all of them get repetitive. Or you could argue Android by Obsidia as well, if you want a much worse example, because Some Wobbles I can at least tolerate. But the breakdown is another 8-bit part, and it increases in pitch before going out very quickly and going into the second build-up. No midsection once again, very similar to Escape or something like that. And this build-up is a lot cooler because I expected there to be another copy-paste build-up, but of course it's Tokyo Machine. Tokyo Machine likes throwing variation where you wouldn't expect, and this is you know, it's very similar to the first build-up as far as the sounds it uses, but the claps and the melody from the first build-up are very drowned out, and they Tokyo Machine eventually adds more clarity to them, and it doesn't actually, blast is not actually the pre-drop phrase this time, it's Tokyo Hypu, I think, not 100% sure. Still has the faster beat, the build-up drums, which is always cool, and the melody is not my favorite, but I do like that he changed it. So, there you go. But then we go into the second drop, and Tokyo Machine proves to me why I enjoy seeing his name pop up as one of the next releases, or seeing a podcast preview of a Tokyo Machine song. Why that is a pleasant surprise to me. Because my biggest problem with Hype was that the second drop did not change up enough. Party had 3 distinctive drops. OK had 2 distinctive drops. Fight had 2 distinctive drops. Pixel had 3 distinctive drops. And then Hype didn't really do that. But here, in Blast, we have a totally different second drop. The harder melody is still kind of here, but it's very modified. It's a little bit more repetitive. But at the same time, it sounds really good to me. Repetition's not always a bad thing. Honestly, you could look to OK by Tokyo Machine as like one of the shining examples on the label. But not everything's changed. We still have the same breakbeat. We still have 808 hats. The 808 hats aren't super spammy, so I don't hate them, but it's still weird. And then we get a drum break leading to a beat change into the 4 on the floor, and this part's even cooler, I reckon. I wasn't expecting us to get a house beat here, but I'm happy. And then it dies out, and then it comes back to introduce a blast vocal sample, and we go back to the awesome melodic melody. Unfortunately, the breakbeat is reintroduced. That's really the only qualm I have with this drop. If it had kept the 4 on the floor with this melody, I would have been, happy as a clam, because it would have been, my preferred beat and my preferred melody. But whatever. A drum break leads into the outro, and it's 8-bit. What else did you expect? It's very similar to the intro, actually, because the melody does go up in pitch again before dying out, and that's the song.
You just got pranked, bro.
Okay, there's actually not that much more, but we get an 8-bit version of the melodic melody again. We get a cowbell sounding percussion, but this sounds a little bit different. I can't really put my finger on why, but this does sound different than the other Game Boy-esque sections. But this plays us out, and now we're actually done with the song. So, Blast. We'll get into the positives first. The melodic melody, as always for Tokyo Machine, is very good. I really liked it in Party. I really like it in OK. I really like it in Fight. I really like it in Pixel. And once again, I like it here too. And the second drop change up is also really cool. And more importantly, it was unexpected. I could have expected maybe a beat change, maybe a couple notes taken out, but this is a totally different melody. And I'm happy for it. The couple of fake outs, while ultimately unnecessary, are pretty neat. It allowed me to use Filthy Frank in one of my videos, so I'm always a fan of that. And finally, both build-ups are pretty good. The first one's kind of generic, but it does do its job, and the second one is also unexpected how much it changes. Unfortunately, there are negatives. This is a very imperfect song. There is way too much 8-bit in this song for me, even for Tokyo Machine standards. Chiptune is not, it's something I appreciate. I mean, Nitro Fun is an artist I really like, for example. But there's just too much here, and most of it's totally unnecessary. The generic Tokyo Machine breakbeat is used way too often here. I like it in Fight because it serves a purpose and it sounds really cool. I like it in the breakbeat drop of Party because it was totally unexpected when it came out, and even now it's still really cool. But I didn't care for it in Pixel. The breakbeat was probably my least favorite part of that song, and I don't even need to talk about Hype, I don't think. If there was more 4 on the floor, I'd be a lot happier. I'm not saying the breakbeat needed to completely go, but let's say the entire second drop was 4 on the floor, I would have been a lot happier. And finally, the first drop took way too long to get good. For a while, I was just kind of tapping my hands, like, "All right, come on, can we get over with this? Seriously." But it did get good eventually. I'm not going to complain too much. Yeah, overall, this seems like a perfect 6 out of 10 song for me. For Tokyo Machine, he needed a song like this. After Hype, I was starting to question, all right, Tokyo Machine might be pumping out the releases too fast. We might need to tap the brakes a little bit. But it didn't really tap the brakes here. This is still very similar to some of his previous songs, like Pixel and Party, I would say. And OK as well. However, this is very, very solid once again. It's not great. I don't like it as much as OK or Party. Or Fight. But it's there with Pixel and Party, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit ahead of Party, maybe a little bit behind Pixel, but still. I wish the song would have been a little bit more epic, because the art and the name, would kind of infer this is going to be a very climactic song, and it's really not. It's kind of more of the same for Tokyo Machine, but honestly, more of the same is, I'll take that after what Hype was. Sorry that review was longer than normal. And sorry if my voice sounds a little bit different. I've been coming down with some sort of sickness over the last couple of days, but it's mostly gone at this point. So hopefully in the next review it'll be fine. Next review, speaking of, is Everything Black by Unlike Pluto and Mike Taylor. Arguably the most popular song on Uncaged Volume 1.